Let's watch a CNN panel as they further discuss Trump rather blatantly admitting his imperialist agenda. You know, in his first term, he had to do this behind closed doors for the optics and trying to get reelected. But now he doesn't have to care about reelection. So he's letting MAGA know early, like, hey, I have food all of you idiots. And boy, as he came out swinging in doing so.
Is there a national security imperative for the United States to reverse that trend?
Right. So, you know, the United States agreed to hand over control of the Panama Canal to the Panama people and to the government of Panama in the 70s, 50 years ago, and that's not up for renegotiation. There's no scenario under which we could get it back, even if we wanted to, other than invading Panama, which is a very stupid scenario.
It is a scenario, though.
But not a scenario that would actually happen in real life in 2025. So what Trump is really talking about is, yes, there's a kernel of a real issue here, which is that the Chinese have invested heavily in the maintenance of the canal that we purchased and that we built and that we abandoned, and now they've given the government of Panama $1 billion for a bridge. They've gotten the contracts through a fair process to manage the ports. And the reason that Central and South American countries are leaning towards China is because China approaches them with investment and with money, and we approach them with threats, and stupid threats at that.
This does show the transactional nature of Trump, however, where he feels they owe us now, and if they won't pay, we'll just toss them to the side. This is how he is with anybody. I mean, we made a deal with Panama over the canal like 50 years ago, partly because administration costs were too high. We didn't want to continue to pay that, and because of the tensions it caused so heavily for us interfering in another country, it wasn't worth it, as long as in the treaty we agreed that, you know, neutral access for all nations would be allowed, that, you know, we would never be prevented from it. As long as we had that, that was all we saw to be beneficial for us. And since Panama has spent billions expanding the canal, making it even more efficient, and operates more efficiently under their control than it ever has under us. And as the CNN host said, if we tried to seize control of it, it would literally be us like invading Panama, an act of war. And it's not like we don't have a part in this treaty where we just ask them nicely for it and they like have to give it back. We would be taking it by force. That's imperialism. And the beauty of it all, it felt like if we felt like they were cozying up to other countries, the reason for that would be because we're not sending aid. These other countries are sending aid. They're sending investment. They're being an ally, right? It's because of this isolationist worldview that Trump wants to have, where we're not sending anything to any other country. We're not going to be friends or buddies with any of our allies, or they can't ask us for a dime. Instead, we're just going to threaten them into doing what we want. It's exactly what would cause Panama to then be in closer relations with China than us, who is offering those things. I mean, it's almost like he's so close to realizing the downstream negative effects of pretending America can only focus on itself and only spend money here, but he just never will.
This is not only the completely wrong way to approach the U.S. relationship with Panama, it's the completely wrong way to approach the U.S. competition with China, because anywhere you go in the world, there's a Chinese company or the Chinese government offering incentives, and if Donald Trump is going to go around offering threats, and threats that are not credible at that, of course these countries are going to go towards China. That's exactly what happened. Xi Jinping went right back to the government of Panama and said, we're with you. We stand with the sovereignty of Panama. And they're actually on the right side of the issue. We're on the wrong side of the issue. And that's really, again, a really unforced error.
I really did not have threats against Panama and Greenland on my bingo
Right. Is this
card.
the priority, by the way? Is there nothing else going on in the world?
Like, what are we doing here, right? I thought Trump winning was supposed to be the signal of now we're going to focus on American issues and things that are troubling the American workers, grocery prices, wages, all of that. But instead, since winning, Trump has only talked about imperialism and like corporate tax cuts. Like, what's going on here? You have to think, like, as a negotiation tactic, it's pretty clear why this is a shit one, right? The saying, you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, it applies here. It's true. If you're a country and you have two different countries, both of them are global economic powers in their own right, and they're trying to get you to be an ally with them. They're trying to negotiate with you. One is offering you massive, like, annual investment, trade deals, foreign aid when you need it, these kinds of things. And the other country is saying, you're going to do what I want, or we're going to tariff you and we're going to take your land by force because you owe us. Which country do you think that one is going to side with, right? And this is what Trump is allowing to happen across the globe. It's not just with Panama, where it happened in his first term as well, where our position is going to be massively weakened abroad with all of these different countries because of the way that Trump likes to posture as China makes waves. Because no country respects Trump. They don't fear him or his veiled threats, despite what MAGA wants you to believe. It doesn't work as a bargaining tactic, and it gives China leverage to come in with aid and investment instead and take said country as a potential ally or trade partner when it could have been us. And then we'll need another Biden to come in and bolster us back up with all these countries again.
For the purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the United States of America feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. I mean, does Trump envision Greenland, Panama, Canada as opportunities for the United States to go back into an era of like colonialism where we just like take what we want?
Abby, this is all part of ending the forever wars by threatening new forever wars everywhere else to get us out of the old ones. On the issue of Panama, they used to be allies with Taiwan. They ended their relationship with Taiwan. They've joined China's Belt and Road Initiative. They've got Chinese-controlled ports on both sides of them. There's a reason for the U.S. to be paying attention to this. And with Trump, you basically have three settings. You have outright strikes, like killing Soleimani in Iraq way back towards the end of his first term. You have threats and bluster, or you have ignoring them. Threats and bluster are as close as we're going to get to paying attention to Central America and to this region.
These are all great points. And I mean, something I constantly rose during the campaign is like, what forever war did Trump ever end? Like, why do we think he's the guy who would end a forever war? He has no experience doing that. He failed to end Afghanistan, even though he promised. He failed to end the conflicts in the Middle East, even though he promised. He made our tensions with Iran worse. He expanded the drone war. Meanwhile, Biden did end Afghanistan. He almost single-handedly ended the drone war. Yet somehow he's the warmonger and Trump is the pro-peace guy. Like, I never understood how that worked out. And I mean, those of us with sense, I don't think we were ever fooled. But like for MAGA, they just wholeheartedly believe this. And now Trump's just masked off. Like, yeah, we are going to start 3 new forever wars. Like, we got you. Like, we don't care, right? Which, even if he doesn't take action, which he probably won't, I mean, he is a coward. He is still unable to get things passed through Congress as well. He's weakening our position with these countries, weakening our standing and how they view us just by posturing like this. And he's opening the door for a country who's like posturing nicer, who's more willing to invest, who take their place as a partner rather than like, you know, the person who's like stands over them. There's a couple different scenarios that could spell out from this. It could allow that enough of these countries come in and swoop these other countries that it's a big enough coalitions built with, say, Russia, that they feel confident enough to launch World War III. And we're drug into it the same way we were drug into World War II by thinking we could just ignore everybody else and only care about ourselves. Or, you know, this country could steal enough of these countries from us, like China or something, you know, and take our place as a global trade partner, right? As like the head of the global trade, like the most sought after one, the economic partner, the economic leader of the world, which would take away almost all of our leverage in any of these negotiations, these trade deals we have, getting our troops back in hostage deals. And we would quickly fall from grace as a superpower as Russia and China would continue to ascend, which I suspect is what some of these MAGA people actually want.